Have you ever stopped to think about what happens to our inflation numbers when the government gives something away for free? I mean, it's a genuine economic puzzle. And if you're gearing up for your exams, you know that understanding the answer is absolutely crucial. So today, we're going to do a deep dive into India's new proposed method for calculating the Consumer Price Index and see exactly how it tackles this very tricky problem.
So this is the central question, right? On the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward. Free should mean prices go down. Simple. But the real answer? Well, it has massive implications for India's monetary policy, for our welfare schemes, and frankly, for the accuracy of our economic data. It is a huge methodological challenge, and it's something the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, or MoSPI, is working on right now.
Here's how we're going to break it all down, just like a chapter in your textbook, to make it super easy to follow. We'll kick things off with the basics of CPI. Then we'll get into the whole free food problem. After that, we'll compare the old method versus the new one, see the formula in action, and then wrap it all up with a rapid-fire summary that's perfect for your last-minute exam revision. Okay, first things first. Let's start with the fundamentals. To really get a grip on this puzzle, we first have to understand the main tool we use to measure it, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. So, to put it simply, the CPI is all about tracking how the price of a typical family's shopping basket changes over time. And this basket has everything you can think of: food, clothes, housing, healthcare, you name it. It's really our most direct way of measuring the headline inflation that hits all of us in our wallets. The entire index is really built on three core pillars. For your exam, this is absolutely key. So, first, you have base year prices, basically what things cost back in a reference year. Second, base year weights. This is about how much of our budget each item takes up, and we get this data from the Household Consumer Expenditure Survey, or HCES. And third, current prices, which are collected every single month from thousands of markets all across the country. And here is a super important update for your exams. You gotta know this. The base year is being revised from 2012 all the way to 2024. Now, this is a huge deal. It's designed to make sure the CPI basket reflects what people are actually buying today, not what we were all buying more than a decade ago.
So why is the CPI so important? Well, here's a really easy mnemonic for your exam. Just think of a member of parliament from the Northwest, or MPNW. M is for monetary policy. It's the RBI's main guide. P is for policy interventions. N is for national accounts to figure out real GDP. And W is for wage indexation, which affects things like dearness allowance and pensions. It just goes to show how central this one number is to the entire Indian economy.
All right, now we get to the real heart of the matter, the free food conundrum. How does a massive, and I mean massive, welfare scheme like the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, which gives free food grains to millions of people, throw a giant wrench into this whole calculation?
You know, the scale of this scheme is just immense. We're talking about a huge part of the population getting a key food item which used to have a subsidized price for absolutely nothing, zero. Now, for a price-based index like the CPI, this creates a huge methodological headache. I mean, how do you put a price on zero?
So this leads to two central questions that the Ministry of Statistics is really grappling with. First, what do you do when the price of something in the existing CPI basket suddenly plummets to zero? And second, when you go to create a whole new CPI series, should an item that people don't even pay for be in there at all? Getting these answers right is absolutely vital for the accuracy of India's inflation data.
Okay, so how did we handle this kind of thing before? And what's the new proposed solution? This comparison is a classic exam question, so let's really break it down carefully. The old method, which is what we're using right now, kind of ignores the whole free aspect. It takes the statistical importance, or the weight, of the free PDS rice and just spreads it around to other rice that's sold in the market. The problem with that? It completely hides the real benefit to a family's budget. The new proposed method is so much more direct. It actually puts a zero price right into the calculation, which gives us a much, much more accurate picture of what's really going on. All right, now for what I think is the most important part, especially if you're writing mains answers. Let's roll up our sleeves and actually walk through the numbers to see exactly how this new proposed method works in the real world. So, the new method uses the basic Lasperis formula. And I know the name looks a little intimidating, but trust me, it's not. It's a pretty standard way of calculating a price index. All it really does is compare the cost of that base year shopping basket at today's prices to what it cost way back in the base year. That's it. Simple as that. Okay, let's walk through this table together. This is our starting point, our base case. Just look at the weight column. PDS rice has a weight of 46. Other rice is 54. Now look at the prices. If the price of other rice goes up just a little bit, from 100 to 101, you can see at the bottom that the final index ticks up to 100.98. So a tiny bit of inflation. This is the normal, everyday scenario.
But now, watch what happens when that free food scheme kicks in. Boom. The PDS rice price under price P4 becomes 0. Now, here's the crazy part. Even though the open market rice price went up to 102, look at the final index. It drops to 99.87. That's deflation. This perfectly captures how free grain actually helps a consumer's wallet, which is something the old method would have completely missed.
And what's really cool is that this new method works both ways. Let's just imagine a future scenario where the government decides to reintroduce a price, let's say 5 rupees. The formula immediately responds, pushing the index right up to 104.04. This proves that the method is robust. It can accurately capture costs going down and going up without any distortion. All right, we've definitely covered a lot of ground, so let's consolidate everything we've learned into one single high-yield summary. Seriously, this is the slide you're going to want to screenshot for your last-minute revision before the exam. So here is your exam blueprint. The biggest takeaway is the shift from just redistributing weights to using a direct zero price. For your exam, you need to lock in these keywords: PMGKY, the 2024 base year change, the Laspeyres formula, HCES for the data, and of course our MPNW mnemonic for the uses of CPI. Got it? And this isn't just some internal proposal by MoSPI. This methodology has been looked at by international experts from the IMF, and they've given it a big thumbs up. They agree that this new method is way more accurate, it doesn't distort price changes, and it's just a robust way to handle this really unique challenge. This whole discussion really leaves us with a bigger question to think about. This change to the CPI, it's not just some technical fix, it's a sign of a much larger challenge. As India's social welfare policies continue to evolve and expand, our economic indicators have to evolve right along with them to capture the true financial reality for millions. And that is the real puzzle we need to keep solving.